Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. Look, this is Easter Sunday, right? And every year before Easter Sunday, they show Moses and the Ten Commandments. So I happened to sit down and watch it yesterday for the first time, right? Now, when I was young, I remember seeing it on television, but I was too busy playing, so I didn't watch the movie or whatnot. But I watched it for the first time, and it's black people's story. That whole movie is talking about bondage, slavery, what we had to go through in America to Pharaoh, a.k.a. the slave master. Right. Moses represented those who cared enough and loved enough or loved black people enough to put their life on the line to get us in the mindset away from Pharaoh's mindset. Because in order to make a slave, you have to take their minds. You have to condition them to be acceptable to that type of treatment, and you can only be acceptable to harsh treatment only if your mind guides you into it. Right. So it was more of a metaphysical, more of a mental bondage, and then the body will follow. Right. And so the people had been in bondage, but they had a remembrance of freedom. So they desired in their heart to be free, to go back to the way that the elders remembered and what the elders taught the next generation of how it was before bondage. They wanted to get back to that place because the labor was hard. You know, it was a struggle. People were dying, less food, being treated like animals. So they was like, it got to be a better way. Symbolic of black people in America working hard, was stripped out of Africa, which Egypt is in Africa. So Egypt representing Africa, where the black man came from, to the Americas. They were Muslims. That's why in the Ten Commandments they call it, they called their God the God of the desert, and then you had the God of the pharaohs. Now, what did they learn being under bondage of Pharaoh? Well, first they learned Pharaoh's economic system. They learned Pharaoh's customs. Right. Pharaoh gave them his names, but wasn't the names of the original man and woman. They were eating strange foods, which was just basically what was left over that Pharaoh didn't want. Same as black people in America, eating strange foods. The white man, he would eat half the hog and leave black folks the chitlins, the guts. And we made, leaving the intestines, the guts, and we made chitlins out of that, right? We saw gold, we saw wealth, we saw the perfume, we saw the way the luxury Pharaoh was living and how we were kept from that lifestyle, but actually desired the lifestyle, right? Now, black people are the only people on the planet ever that suffered for 400 years in a strange land, in a strange place, amongst strange people. Now, the Jews of 4,000 years ago, they kept their language, they kept their culture, their traditions, they knew the land and they knew the language, so they didn't fit. Black people in America are the only people who was uprooted to a new land under a strange language, under strange cultures, and under strange people. Even the blacks that was already here, they still was up under a strange man with a strange language. And they enslaved the natives too as well. But the point I'm making is when Moses freed the people physically, right, he didn't free them mentally. When the slaves was free under Abraham Lincoln, they were freed physically, but wasn't freed mentally. That's why in the Ten Commandments, the children of Israel, when they got so far and they escaped Pharaoh, they turned around and went back to Pharaoh's custom and made a golden calf. Now, where did they get the gold from? Right? They snatched the gold from Pharaoh and took it with them. Why? Because they wanted their turn to have gold and luxury, and they wanted to be Pharaoh. Yeah, they wanted to live like and implement the things that Pharaoh kept them from. And they felt, okay, well, now that we free, we can be Pharaoh. We going to take on his customs and his ways, just like black people in America. We're free, right? But what? You still have the slave master's name. Alex Haley went and researched his whole history and roots and Kunta Kinte and the tribe he came from, but still kept the same last name, white man's last name. He kept that name, didn't change it, right? Black people in America, we still have Pharaoh's last name. We have Pharaoh's religion. We have Pharaoh's customs. We have Pharaoh's way of life. When we were free, when a so-called Abraham Lincoln freed the slave, we didn't go back. Not all of us, some did, but the majority didn't go back to what we knew how to do. We were free and suffered and suffering because we wanted to be Pharaoh and live like Pharaoh. We fell in love with Pharaoh's customs, right? We wanted to recreate Pharaoh from the way that we saw how it should be done, and wondering why it hasn't happened. We left our traditional spiritual ways and start teaching how Pharaoh taught. Right? We fell in love with the wealth, the gold, the fine cars, materialism, the whole nine, of what Pharaoh had. It's like, wow, man, that's why, they couldn't, Moses and the children of Israel, the elderly, they had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until they died off. They couldn't see the promised land, meaning the promised land is within you. Of when you rid yourself of influences that were put on you by people who didn't like you, who wanted to keep you a slave, right? And so we gotta wait now for generations to die off, right? So we can fully be what's yearning deep within us, to pull it out, to enjoy a new type of freedom. See, that's why you see young people who don't see and don't have that mindset of their parents in dealing with the slave master's children. They don't understand. And the problem is that the former slave master, he thinks that it will always be in the 1800s. He's even trying today with these new voter rights laws that's been passed in Georgia, and fail to realize it doesn't work. See, the reason why Pharaoh didn't recognize what was in front of him, meaning the plagues that took place, they always been there. It's just that the slaves knew what to do and was protecting Pharaoh without Pharaoh even knowing it. It's like back in slavery time when white children would get sick. Well, the black women knew what to go in them woods and what root and what herbs to go get to heal, and when she would make it for her children, she'd give some to the slave master kids, and they were cured. So, and I'm just saying, not just one black woman, that was common. All of them knew what to do. All of them could look out and say, this is coming. We need to move this over here. You need to gather this up. The reason why locust is coming here because you got this right here. You need to uproot these and plant these to keep the locusts out. That was just common knowledge within the black community, right, in those days. But when black folk, after 400 years was up, and now blacks are no longer in bondage and free, their mindset is on building our world. And so now some of these diseases or whatnot, since that old knowledge of medicine that protected the black family and also the slave master's family, they gone. They took that knowledge with them. Now Pharaoh's he's starting to face it for the first time, which he didn't face it in the past, because his old, excuse the French, but his old mammy, that black woman, she not there no more to look after. He's suffering. They don't know what to do. They losing it. And so now it's like they call it a pandemic, because that them root workers who knew how to go in the forest to gather the herbs and spices and make mixed teas and things of that nature are not there to heal him. So he don't know how to do it. They didn't share that knowledge with him. So he's in a laboratory trying to cook up something that of what he think will do it, and it's not working. But that old black woman who passed that knowledge down to her family members and whatnot, they know what to go get and cook and make tea out of to protect themselves, because they didn't allow their mind to get engulfed in Pharaoh's culture. They didn't, it's like sometimes you have to give up what you know and what you have in order to be part of something else that you think is more valuable than what you have. But in the end, you realize you gave up the gold for a grain of sand. You've been hoodwinked. You've been had, played, run amok. And that's what we seeing today. Those who separated themselves mentally from Pharaoh, they free, enjoying life, moving around, they ain't worried about nothing, But those who was caught up in Pharaoh's mind, they still looking for Pharaoh to save them. Help me, Pharaoh. We sick. Pharaoh, our house is in trouble. And Pharaoh looking like, man, I don't know you. I'm trying to save myself. You go over there with your people. But they abandoned their people to be up under Pharaoh. I mean, like I say, it was the first time that I ever watched the Ten Commandments. But if you go back and watch that movie, it's strictly talking about black folks being in bondage, and it was a time for their deliverance. because they was already fighting back, bucking, getting tired because they had enough was enough, and someone came with a mindset to remove those slaves from up under Pharaoh to save the slaves so they can go out and enjoy and build the life that they see, and also so Pharaoh don't get swallowed up in the mix of their anger of being in bondage to Pharaoh for such a long time. So the separation worked for both parties. So that's why, if you understood the knowledge that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad dropped, it really was teaching, in one aspect, white folk on how to get favor with the Creator so they don't have to suffer the wrath of God if only they would treat they want slaves right and show some type of humility, right? And gave them the knowledge on how to do it. But they were so stubborn, though. They was like, I'm not listening to nothing you say. I'm going to keep voter laws. I'm going to murder this black man in the street. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I ain't listening to what nothing nobody black say. And it's like, dude, this is for your own good, for you and your people. Show some humility. Show some restraint. Fall back. It's over with. And start your journey or your path on creating something new out of peace and love for your people. Let the hate and the racism go. All right? Because you're not going to win in the end. But yet, some still stubborn. They just can't let go. Wow. But the Ten Commandments, it was wild, man. My first time watching it. And black folk, if you sit down and put black folk in the place of the children of Israel, right? Everything they talked about in that movie happened to us here in America. Bro Pick Radio, we're out.